I'm sitting here with Representative Michael Frame. He's the representative of the 105th District. And Mr. Frame, good to see you. We're sitting in House Springs. This isn't a part of Burns Mill, and you can thank this gentleman right here for making that happen. Getting a lot of folks out there turning out against that Burns Mill machine. And Mr. Frame, if you would just elaborate, we got about 15 minutes on this YouTube thing. I don't know if you need all that much, but why should the people re-elect you, Mike?
Well, we're meeting in an area right here that could have possibly been city of Burns Mill, and I've got great respect for the city, the folks who live in the city of Burns Mill. Unfortunately, our city leaders have been very aggressive in pursuing revenue for their city. They wanted to build a big city hall. They wanted to extend their city limits to take in this particular property we're in right now and implement their sales tax on everything that's sold down here, their property tax on all the land and all the buildings, their utility tax on the gas, the water, the electric, the telephones, and then a business license fee on, I guess, whatever was left over, to the tune of taking away $100,000 a year away from 11 struggling small businesses. Now, I've talked with Chris Greivner, who owns Metabella's here. He tells me that he could not have remained in business had that gone through.
Sure.
And all to build themselves a big city hall to sit in and feel important. During the worst economy we've seen in our lifetimes, they're willing to take this step. So I held a town hall meeting during the annexation process. Had about 200 people, members of our community, come to the town hall meeting. We discussed the annexation. It seemed like 100% of them were opposed to the annexation. Collected the signature, the names and telephone numbers of everyone who attended. I then spent the next several months, I would call through that list during the week, get about 25 volunteers on the weekends to come over here to Burns Mill, because the way Burns Mill had done it was they cherry-picked an area where there were no voters, only struggling small business owners. So there was no one to vote against the annexation. And what makes it really unfair was that the folks who would have to pay that tax, they didn't get to vote. The folks who were going to receive that tax, they get to vote. So we had no choice but to talk with the residents of Burns Mill on this issue. We identified 325 Burns Mill residents who told us they were going to vote no. We then started calling those folks about a week before the election. We called them every day, sometimes twice a day. We called them so much that they told us, if you call us one more time,
we're not showing up. Yeah.
We're voting against we're voting for the annexation. So of the 325 residents that we had contacted and were communicating with, 331 voted no on that issue.
Well, that's good.
That was.
It's all about getting people to turn out.
Well, but you know, we've gone through this several times now, Jeff. This wasn't their first time that they tried this, and these business owners that were in this area right now, as soon as we beat it, they said, okay, when's Burns Mill going to try it again? So I went back to the Missouri House of Representatives and drafted a bill. I got my legislation through the House, I got it through the Senate, and Governor Nixon signed my bill into law on July 13th of this year. It makes Burns Mill the most regulated city in the state when it comes to annexations.
Well, and getting Nixon to sign off on that was kind of a coup in and of itself, because I believe Jay Nixon was the one who put the whole Burns Mill thing on the map in the first place, wasn't he?
I'm not sure it's true. I've heard the rumor before.
Well, yeah, when he was in the Senate, I believe he introduced the bill. But, yeah, I don't really know about that.
Not sure if it's true, but I'd heard that rumor, so I was a little concerned as well, too. Let me tell you, Jeff, that bill went through the House and the Senate and arrived at the governor's desk without ever receiving one single no vote. Now, you can't point to many pieces of legislation in any given year. One or maybe two pieces of legislation can actually boast that record any given year. You know, there's 2,000 bills, on average, about 2,000 bills proposed on any given year in the legislature. This year my bill passed, there was 106 of those out of 2,000 became law. My bill was one of 106, so it was an incredible record. I think folks think that getting a bill passed is a pretty simple process. Just by the numbers alone, telling you it's pretty difficult.
Well, how long have you been in the state rep?
4 years.
4 years, and I guess you're seeking another term. Is it a 4-year term?
It's a 2-year term.
2-year term.
Right.
So, what is the term limit on?
4 2-year terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're good for this term and then another term if you elect to go that way.
Yes, sir.
Would you consider running for the Senate then when you're out of it?
Oh, it's a long way away.
It's a long way away.
Not even thinking
okay.
about it.
What else are you doing for the citizens of the 105th District?
Well, part of my district is Jefferson, and the other part is Franklin.
Okay.
I can talk more about Jefferson, but just kind of for fairness, let's click over to Franklin.
Sure.
It's a phenomenal record over there. Integram was the company that used to make the car seats that went into the Chrysler products over in Fenton.
Okay.
When Chrysler folded its doors, Integram was forced to do the same. It's a story becoming very familiar in America.
Sure.
I saw a lot of my friends become unemployed. The city of Pacific lost their largest employer and their largest tax provider. But in less than just a little more than 1 year's time, we've got a brand new employer has already moved in. They're starting to hire right now. They're going to take they're going to fill 100 positions immediately, possibly another 100 positions after the first of the year. These are good paying jobs. They start an average of $33,000 a year. They're manufacturing wages. They pay benefits. They have pensions. These are kinds of stories that we want to hear and don't get enough of, quite frankly. Didn't happen by accident, Jeff. How that happened was myself working with the City of Pacific, Harold Selby, the city administrator over there, Mayor Adams, and his fantastic Board of Aldermen. Representing the state, we were able to offer state tax incentives that would allow them to keep the employee withholding tax that they usually send on to Jeff City. Provided a community block development grant in the amount of $1 million to allow them to finance the infrastructure change they need to convert one factory over to another factory. So
that's great news. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is there going to be union jobs or?
Well, it's a brand new factory, so no brand new factory starts off union. But if any particular labor organization wants to come in there and attempt to organize those workers, I assume that they're free to do so.
Well, today the unions are even more integral as far as what's going on with the economy, and I would like to see the unions get more involved in local economy and local jobs, and try to get organized, because my wife's a local 788 Teamster, and her company just got bought off by Pfizer. So we're going to see what happens as far as how strong the union can be, because there's some speculation there that they're going to try to bust the union now that place, and I know it's happened a lot. But
the union is only as strong as its membership, and you're seeing the economy decline. You're seeing unions decline. You're seeing our middle class decline. That's what's going on with this country right now. The middle class is definitely shrinking. It's been under attack for the last 30 years or so. This is what I scream and rally against in Jefferson City. The politics and the policies that are being implemented in Jefferson City have a direct effect upon this, and a lot of folks are looking at Fox News and MSNBC and C-SPAN and CNN, thinking that's where things are happening. And I know that's the attractive stuff over there, right here in Missouri, right in Jefferson City, 100 miles from your front door. Don't look at 2,000 miles away. Look 100 miles away, because that's what's going on right here. And quite honestly, Jeff, a lot of folks are pretty disgusted with what they see going on in Washington, D.C. I think they would be equally disgusted if they looked over Jeff City to what's going on. What's happening there is actually the reverse of what you see in Washington, D.C. In Jeff City, you got the Republicans in charge. They're the ones dropping the bills 20 minutes before it's time to vote. They're the ones that have legislation this thick and don't read the bills at all and present legislation that they haven't read whatsoever. The same thing that disgusts you about Washington, D.C. is exactly what's happening about 100 miles from your front doorstep, and that's where the action is. I would venture to say has much more of an impact on your life than in Washington, D.C.
Well, all politics starts local, and on the ground. My big problem with America is the lawyers, and I know that
I've seen your show. I know.
But I've always kind of wondered, how is it not a conflict of interest to be a member of the legislative branch, making laws, and being also an officer of the court who makes a living off of the laws, kind of like having a doctor manufacture diseases.
I've heard your argument, Jeff. It's a sound argument. I'm not an attorney, nor am I a judge. I think that matter needs to go in front of the courts. You sure make a very solid case.
Because the whole problem with America, a lot of just us and very little justice, and you see that with the lawyers, and there again, Mr. Nixon is a member of the bar too, and an officer of the court, and there again, he's an executive. About 10 years ago, a guy named Kelly Parker was a state rep in Ironton area, and he actually got a judgeship created, and he filled that judgeship, and he took his $31,000 a year and made $198,000. So I guess you see that quite a bit in the legislature. Or?
I would be more than happy if we didn't have the number of lawyers in the legislature that we do today.
And there's not that many of them, really, though. I think there's only 12 or 13 of them or something.
The last figure I heard, I think, was over 20.
Oh, okay.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's declined by now. But the last figure I heard, it was the number one profession, I think, in the legislature. and they sure make legislation a lot more difficult.
Well, like in the Congress, and like in the U.S. Congress, I know like 2/3 of the people are lawyers. Now, Carnahan's running against Ed Martin. Carnahan's not a lawyer, is he?
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
his
I know.
wife is a judge.
Okay.
So I assume he has a law degree
Okay.
as well and passed the bar.
But him himself, he is not a lawyer. But Ed Martin is a lawyer. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I think he is. Yeah, and I was all for Ed until I found out he was a lawyer. So I'm gonna have to reevaluate my position as far as
Right.
I don't think Carnahan needs to be in there either. But and it was 10 years ago today that his father and elder brother passed away.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was October 16th of 2000 when they fell out of the sky. Basically, I think right down the road here.
Not too far away. Yeah.
And he was going from
a sad day.
St. Louis into down into southeast Missouri to a fundraiser. But he had just left a fundraiser in the Central West End and flew out of Parks Airport. And the weather was bad that night, and a lot of people said he shouldn't have been flying. But Randy was the I think it's Randy. I think it's the oldest son.
I think you're right.
But he was the pilot, and they ran into a little trouble. And it turned out that there was some avionics or something wrong with the plane, and they ended up suing Cessna, and they settled out of court, I believe. But
right.
yeah, you know what? I would just pray that the people would wake up and realize what's really happening with this country. That we're losing our republic. We really are, and the attack is on the middle class. And. So this man, he's fighting for the working man and working class, and
I've been a working guy my entire life. Been a union member for over 30 years. When I first ran for this office, my central focus in my campaign was to improve the state roads in my area. Now, to tell you the truth, I didn't know exactly how I was going to do that.
Yeah.
My dad was killed in a car accident, so
Sure.
I have a special passion for highway safety. But in 4 years in office now, a little more than 4 years, I've brought home over $40 million of road construction projects.
and so I guess the new M.
Partly in mine. That
Yeah,
started just
sure.
before I came in, but still had to fight for those funds to remain right here. The roads that we drive, you drive the same kind
Sure,
of roads.
yeah.
2-lane state roads with no guardrails, no shoulders, hairpin turns. You see white wooden crosses and flower
Yeah.
grease all around. These are the roads that we were driving on when I took office. Something's terribly wrong when you're driving on roads named Blood Alley and Death Valley.
Sure.
So that was my strongest commitment to our roadways. I think everyone, if you look around, and when I say our highways, our roadways, I'm talking about the state roads,
Sure.
usually the
Yeah,
lettered
yeah,
roads.
the letter roads that you're responsible.
Sometimes
for.
the number of roads, but $40 million in road construction. You can look around your neighborhood and whatever road you particularly live off on. It's the 105th district. You've probably seen some major improvements on that. The one exception, I guess, is Highway W over here, which is where I live off.
Yeah,
to tell you the
yeah.
truth.
I used to live off of Twin Rivers, and
There you go.
yeah.
And Highway W actually has been fully funded. It's a $5 million project. The work begins, I think, next year. It really gets in earnest, I think, the year after that.
Okay.
But we're going to look at 4-foot shoulders, the entire length of W from Highway 30 to Highway F.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Where they fit in.
Yeah, sure.
Because
Yeah,
when you get
yeah,
over there
absolutely.
by
Yeah,
they call the Narrows.
Yeah, you're cut
Bluffs
in,
on
yeah,
one side,
yeah.
river on the other. We obviously can't put them there. But 4-foot shoulders, the entire length of W, wherever they fit in. We're looking at 3 left turn lanes, one at Burnsville Road, the other at Haney Springs, the other at Twin Rivers
Okay,
Bridge.
which will make a big difference. Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir. And then lastly, that sharp curve there at
right
Twin
across,
Rivers,
yeah.
they call it Dead Man's
Yeah.
Curve. We're going to make that much less deadly.
Okay, so you're going to straighten that out somehow.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I think we're about out of time. I don't know where my time's at on here. Hold on a second. Let me look in here. We got 15 minutes, so you got about a minute to close up here. Mr. Frame, any closing remarks?
Well, I as I face re-election again and attempt to represent my district one more time, I think my record has been a very good record. It's all been local, whether it's been fighting for better roads in our community, whether it's been fighting on special interests like City of Burns Mill that wants to dominate some of the area here and increase taxes. I've been the voice of working people. I've
Sure.
been the voice of the middle class. I've been the one fighting for the constituents of my district.
And very few incumbents I support, but I would have to support you, Mr. Frame, because you have done a tremendous job turning out the vote here and at least saving the House Springs annexation by Burns Mill.
Thank you.
So this is Michael Frame. He's the state representative out of the 105th district, and I appreciate him taking the time on this Saturday to sit down and talk to us. Just get out and vote on on Tuesday, November 2nd.
November 2nd.
And just vote your conscience, folks.
For those folks voting against me, that's November 3rd, Wednesday. Make sure you vote. For those voting
It's the
for
first
me,
Wednesday. It's the
Tuesday,
first Wednesday of the
November
month
2nd.
for my opponents. Yes. Well, that was Michael Frame. I appreciate you taking the time to look at us, Mike. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Have a
Appreciate
good day
it.
now. Take
Thanks,
care.
sir.